Barack Hussein Obama wants to ship even more Muslims into the United States. The Brussels attacks be damned. Inquiring minds want to know, are those rumors about Ted Cruz's alleged affairs true or not? And which candidate's tax policies put more money back in your wallet? Well, I won't spoil the surprise for you, but here's a clue. It's not the one. It is the one who's not a government employee. I botched that one. My name is Howard Riell, and this is Real Truth. It's Monday. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com, and on Facebook and YouTube and Tumblr, and in the book, Real Truth, Stay Angry. Of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM, The Lion. Our call-in number is 877-254-7524. My friends, still wrestling with the cold, as you can hear. But let's talk about government. Government in the abstract. Let's talk about government in general. Because only about an hour and a half ago, I had a run-in with government. I went to the post office to apply for a passport. Okay? I had made the appointment a month ago because that's how long it takes to get in and fill out a form. So I got there, and I brought the form all filled out. I brought my driver's license, which I was told to bring, either my driver's license or my birth certificate. And I thought I'd be on my way. The woman behind the counter said, no, you need your driver's license and your birth certificate. I said, well, wait a minute. That's not what I was told. And she said, well, that's what you need. They have to prove you're a citizen. And I said, well, don't you have to be a citizen to get a driver's license? She said, yes. And I said, well, then that's my proof of citizenship. She says, no, they're changing it, changing the driver's licenses so they connect with the passports. I said, well, that's fine, but that's in the future. Right now, I've got a government driver's license which proves that I'm a citizen. Common sense was getting me nowhere. She had to have the birth certificate. Okay? So I said I would go back. I said I didn't have the birth certificate. She said, well, then you'll have to come back. That's always a government employee's response. I can't do anything, go away. However, I said to her, well, wait a second. She started to walk away. I said, I know you work for the government, but despite that, let's try and inject a little intelligence and efficiency. The people online behind me like that. I said, why, as long as I'm here and I had an appointment, why don't you process my information now, and then I'll just come back with the birth certificate. Well, she thought about it, and she didn't want to do it because, after all, she's a government employee. But everybody was watching her, and so, all right, she did it. She processed my paperwork. She insisted that we take a photo for the passport, even though I came with passport photos. She said, you can't use these because you're wearing your glasses in the photo. I said, well, if you're not allowed to wear glasses in the passport photo, how come the people who took the passport photo allowed me to take them with glasses on? She had no answer. By the way, there was a $40 charge for taking the passport photos. I said, all right, I'm going to come back with my birth certificate. She said, make sure you're back here by 3 o'clock because otherwise this is going to be in your mailbox, all the papers I'd filled out, tomorrow. And you're going to have to start from scratch. I said, I've never seen mail delivered that quickly. She said, oh, it'll get there. She said, gee, I'm putting it in the delivery pouch right now, and I'm setting it out, and it's ready to go out. I turned to the people online. I said, I've never seen the government operate this efficiently before. Everybody laughed. Then she told me it was $110 for the passport made out to the State Department. Then there was another $40 to be made out to the post office for handling. I said, what handling? You mean you're taking my money? So it's a fee. It's a fee. I said, is there a fee for my leaning on the counter? She said, no. So I left. I came back 20 minutes later with my birth certificate. I gave it to her. She processed it. And I said, look, because I had to make an extra trip back to my house, I have to charge you a $40 fee. Make it out to Howard Riell. She didn't like hearing that. The people online behind me did. What's the bottom line? As you've heard me say innumerable times on this show, government is always stupid, slow, plodding, inefficient, and does not serve the public, which is why tens of millions of Americans are dying to vote for Donald Trump for president. Because he's not part of the government apparatus. He comes from the private sector. In the private sector, if you operate with your head up your ass, you're unemployed. Only for the government can you be an idiot and remain employed. Excuse me. So that was my run-in with the government today. And that's why Donald Trump must become president, because people who spent years and focused their career on working for government, working on the public dole, taking taxpayers' money, those people will never work as if they're in the private sector. They're not, and they don't have to. And so we need someone from outside the government sector to get things done. Just like I took care of business this morning. Instead of ending up in the belly of the beast, I wound up outfoxing Leviathan. And despite the fact that they took a bunch of money off of me, I expect to get my passport relatively soon. Item. From the Washington Examiner, in a brief Easter weekend radio address, President Obama vowed to decimate the self-proclaimed Islamic State. But he said the United States will do so by offering an example of freedom, tolerance, and open society. Unquote. In other words, how are we going to defeat the Islamic State? We're going to bring tens of thousands of more Muslims here to America. Now, my friends, if your brain at this point is beginning to throb from the illogic and the utter stupidity and the brainlessness and carelessness and recklessness of that comment from the president, I can offer you little solace. He's a government employee. He's the most powerful government employee. Also, I'll throw in, anecdotally, he hates America, hates Americans, loves his fellow Muslims, and he's doing everything he can, probably right up until the very hour that he leaves office, to harm America, to destroy America. So no matter how many Muslims are killing how many people in Brussels, or in Paris, or in Israel, or elsewhere, he's intent on bringing more Muslims here. More of his fellow Muslims here. It's Monday. It's Real Truth. Laying it on the line for you, my friends. We'll take a break, and I'll be back.
I'm Joe Jacobs, CEO of the Patriot Trading, and I would like to encourage everyone to make sure they are prepared financially as the Federal Reserve continues to destroy the value of the dollar. Since the closing of the gold window in 1971, the Federal Reserve has led the way in the explosion of debt and the devaluing of your money. They openly say that they need 2% inflation, which simply means they hope to devalue your money, and they want to do this every single year, year after year. I know it's hard to understand, but the Federal Reserve believes in prosperity through debt and growth via the devaluation of your future. To learn more about how to protect yourself, visit us at allamericangold.com or call us at 800-951-0592 and protect yourself against the devaluing of your money. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness of Him and cried out, saying, This was He of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for He was before me. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
All right, my friends, welcome back to Real Truth. This comes from MSNBC. Trump spokesperson, I think it's Katrina Pearson, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. On the heated feud between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, or as we call him, Lion Denying Ted. Here we go.
Going to talk now to Donald Trump's national campaign spokesperson, Katrina Pearson. Obviously, the Wisconsin primary race heating up that contest on April 5th. Some saying this is the last chance for the Republican establishment to stop Donald Trump, if it's going to stop Donald Trump.
Hey, all right, I'm back. Sorry, folks. I was just about to go to a video. Folks, I'm sorry, a little technical glitch. Let's go to the video. Katrina Pearson, Trump spokesperson, talking about the heated feud with Lion Denying Ted Cruz. Here we go.
This is the last chance for the Republican establishment to stop Donald Trump, if it's going to stop Donald Trump. So Katrina Pearson from the Trump campaign joins me now. Katrina, thank you for taking a few minutes here. I want to start with the biggest controversy in this Republican race right now, and this is over this issue of the candidates' wives, whether they're fair game in this campaign. Ted Cruz, your opponent yesterday, did not mince words talking about Donald Trump. This is what Ted Cruz said about Donald Trump yesterday. I want to play it and have you respond to it. Here's Ted Cruz.
I don't get angry often, but you mess with my wife, you mess with my kids, that'll do it every time. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
So will you support him as the nominee?
I'm going to beat him for the nomination.
That's not answering the question, Senator,
I am
respectfully.
answering the question. Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
He's leading right now. You just looked in that camera and said he's a coward. Will you support him as the nominee?
Donald Trump will not be the nominee. Donald Trump is a gift wrapped in a pink little bow for the Democratic Party. It hands the general election to Hillary Clinton.
But what I want to ask you about there is the part where he calls your candidate a coward. What do you say to that?
I think sniveling coward can be looked up online, snivelingcoward.com, and I'm kind of okay with that. But this is really good political theater. I've been watching the headlines over the last couple of days, and I got to tell you, this isn't about Heidi Cruz. This is about Melania Trump. Melania Trump was the one that was attacked, and everyone seemed to be silent on that issue. Mr. Trump stands up for his wife, and all of a sudden, there's this faux attack on Heidi Cruz.
Katrina, let me just to clarify here, what Ted Cruz and what his campaign are saying is that was not Ted Cruz, that was not the Ted Cruz campaign that put that picture of Melania Trump out there. That was a super PAC. You know, we live in this age where these super PACs are sprouting up all over the place. It's an anti-Trump super PAC, but it wasn't the Cruz campaign. It wasn't Ted Cruz who said he wanted to make this an issue.
It may not have been directly from the Ted Cruz campaign, but this super PAC was operating on the behalf of Ted Cruz.
My friends, let me stop for a second. Let me ask you a question. You remember when the Cruz people put out the word that Ben Carson had dropped out of the race and all his supporters should go to Cruz? Well, Cruz also claimed it was his supporters, not him. Now he's making the very same claim. And so my question is, since Ted Cruz doesn't know what the hell his supporters are doing, if he were to become president, how can we be confident he'd know what the hell his administration was doing? Obviously, he's not in charge, and he doesn't know how to direct a team. Is that what we need in the White House? I think if not. Here we go.
It was a pro-Ted Cruz ad, and from the beginning, since Mr. Trump entered this race, he disavowed all super PACs, sent out cease and desist letters to those who were operating in his name, and told the candidates, if you do not disavow super PACs, we will hold the campaign accountable for the attacks against him. And that's all Mr. Trump did.
So when that super PAC ad came to light, when Donald Trump found out about it, the first thing he tweeted was a direct message to Ted Cruz through Twitter, and he said that he would spill the beans on Ted Cruz and his wife. What does that mean, spill the beans?
Well, that means if you're going to bring my wife into this, I'll bring your wife into this. And spilling the beans is quite simple when it comes to Heidi Cruz. She is a Bush operative. She worked for the architect of NAFTA, which has killed millions of jobs in this country. She was a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, who, in Senator Cruz's own words, called a nest of snakes that seeks to undermine national sovereignty. And she's been working for Goldman Sachs, the same global bank that Ted Cruz left off of his financial disclosure, and who also has chairman on the board of the Federal Reserve, which is something that Senator Cruz promised to audit the Fed and didn't show up for the vote. So spilling the beans on Heidi Cruz simply means that her entire career has been spent working against everything Ted Cruz says that he stands for.
And very quickly, new polling out that shows that Donald Trump doing particularly poorly in the general election among women. Does this dust up hurt him even more with that group of voters?
No, I don't think so, because we've been hearing this for a very long time, and the GOP didn't have women problems magically on June 2015. Mr. Trump has been winning women as these elections have occurred, and I think he's going to continue to win women simply because women care more about the education of their children, their safety and security, and their jobs in this country.
All right, Katrina Pearson with the Trump campaign. Thanks for the time.
It's great to be here.
My friends, this is not a small thing. Heidi Cruz, like Ted Cruz himself, started out as part of the Bush movement, the Bush administration, the Bush political machine. The Bush crime family is the title of Roger Stone's book, and they are indeed a filthy, dirty bunch of hack politicians. That's where Heidi and Ted Cruz come from. That's where they met. Heidi Cruz works for Goldman Sachs. She doesn't just work for him. She's a managing director. She's a big shot, excuse me, at the global bankster, which is one of the too big to fail banks, and which is tied into the Federal Reserve. And the Cruzes got a loan from Goldman Sachs, which they just by coincidence left off their official forms. The whole thing reeks of establishment. And then the press will tell you Ted Cruz is an anti-establishment candidate. He's anything but. If he comes from the Bush machine, if she's connected to Goldman Sachs, they are establishment. As far as Ted Cruz's infidelities, I have no idea. But I do know this. Here's a little insight. Many years ago, I used to freelance for the National Enquirer. And when I would write a story and assert something in the story, they were very, very careful to find out who my source was. Did I have a second source? They were very careful about that. And so if they're going to print something as explosive as this, Ted Cruz allegedly having affairs with 5 different women, I have to believe, based on my personal experience, that they made sure their facts were right. Time will tell. We'll see what happens with this. But in the meantime, I have lost a lot of respect for Ted Cruz. He's part of the Bush machine. He's connected to Goldman Sachs. And I just plain don't like it. And his people, his super PAC, are throwing mud at Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, now Donald Trump. I don't like it. It stinks of politics as usual. And the whole story of this election cycle is the turning away from, the pushing away of politics as usual. Because it's what's killing this country. I can't breathe, but I won't let that deter me. Item from the New York Post. Donald Trump wants U.S. allies to ante up if they want to continue under the cloak of American protection, according to his first detailed comments on his foreign policy platform. Quote, we're not being reimbursed for the kind of tremendous service that we're performing by protecting various countries, the Republican frontrunner was quoted as saying. Trump said he would boycott oil from Saudi Arabia and other allies unless they provide troops or funds to fight ISIS. Quote, if Saudi Arabia was without the cloak of American protection, I don't think it would be around, he told the New York Times. Stop! That is so good. That is so right. I'm reading Roger Stone's book about the Bush crime family, and it details in excruciating detail the close relationship the Bushes have had with not only the CIA, but the Saudi royal family. They are in bed together. The Saudis get from us, the Bushes get from Saudis, CIA gets from both. It is the machine. And so when someone like Trump comes along, promising to disenfranchise the Saudis, well, you can bet the establishment's going to scream, and it is screaming. They're doing everything their devious minds can think of to get rid of Trump. Why? Because he wants to give control of our government back to us. As far as I'm concerned, that overrules everything else. Government of the people, by the people, for the people is just a distant memory now. Trump wants to bring it back, and that's worth everything. As far as Saudi Arabia, they are a major, perhaps the major, source of terrorism funding in the world. If I woke up tomorrow and Saudi Arabia was gone, replaced by a mushroom cloud, I would shed no tears. Item. From the Conservative Tribune. A sometimes overlooked aspect of the presidential candidates' platforms is their policy on taxes. Not because they aren't vitally important, but simply because taxes just aren't that sexy, politically speaking. That said, CBS News recently compared and graphically illustrated the differences in the various remaining candidates' tax plans, and those differences are stunning. In line with his promise to make America a great and prosperous nation again, the tax plan of billionaire businessman Donald Trump would actually place the most money back into workers' paychecks of all the candidates, with the average worker earning about $55,000 per year, bringing home an extra $85 every 2 weeks. Stop. My friends, I told you we need to cut spending, we need to cut taxes, we need to cut the government down to size. Donald Trump's plan puts more of our money back in our pockets where it belongs. Why would you not vote for a candidate who wants to give you back your money, which the government took under false pretenses, that it would be spent well? Trump is the guy who's going to give us back our government and our money and our freedoms. I don't know about you, but I've missed those things. Item from rightalerts.com. Patriotic bikers from all over the United States are planning to show up at all future Trump rallies to make sure that any paid agitator protesters don't take away Mr. Trump's right to speak or interfere with the rights of Trump supporters to safely attend. They shall not be silenced. The bikers plan to provide security outside of all future Trump rallies and events. They want to stop the paid protester agitators from the increasing atmosphere of violence. We all need to stand up for our country, like these patriots. Unquote. My friends, I'm not a fan of bikers. But if they're standing up in defense of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, then I am all for them. And shame on those who are paying people to disrupt meetings. I want to find out who's paying them, and I want those people in jail. Because they are violating the Constitution. Item. From Reuters, hundreds gathered in front of the North Carolina governor's mansion on Thursday to protest passage of a state law that blocks cities from allowing transgender people to use public bathrooms that match their gender identities. The demonstrators, carrying signs and chanting phrases like "Trans Lives Matter," blocked traffic in front of Republican Governor Pat McCrory's residence in Raleigh, according to images shared on Twitter by reporters, gay rights groups, and protesters. Videos posted on Twitter showed several protesters being arrested. A police dispatcher confirmed the protest was underway, could not provide details on arrests or injuries. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocacy groups condemning the law's passage said they were exploring legal challenges. Unquote. I've got a challenge for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocates. Here it is. The laws in the United States might not be totally to your liking, but over in the Middle East there are people pushing gays off of roofs, throwing them in jail for decades because they're gay. So my challenge to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocacy people is to get on a plane, go to where the problem is the worst. Go to where they're killing people for being gay, protest there, file lawsuits there, get in their faces there, make a real difference where it really counts. Save gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender lives. And if you won't do that, then admit you're hypocrites and shut up. We'll be back.
We all know that our government is out of control. What are the point of people in it? How can we, the people, bring it back to the people's servants, not the people's masters? Liberty Forum and the Freedom Rider says officials in government must be made accountable for their actions. AccountabilityRevolution.com is the place to go to learn how you can actually make that happen. Become their judges, not their slaves. AccountabilityRevolution.com. Great Plains Power has been providing reliable electrical power systems in the Rocky Mountain area since 1992. Our systems rely on the sun to help make you self-reliant for your power needs. Solar energy can be scaled to fit any situation, from complete power independence to backup power for the short term. Our expertise focuses on standalone power, but we have extensive experience with utility interactive systems as well. Custom-tailored capabilities as modest emergency lighting all the way to commercial-scale power. Great Plains Power is a full-service company. We service everything we sell. We provide and design turnkey packages, custom-designed system, and parts for do-it-yourself. With more than 20 years of specialized experience at your disposal, let us know what your power concerns or goals are. Reach us by phone or the internet. Call 303-239-9963. That's 303-239-9963. Or go to GreatPlainsSolar.com. Now this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 through 21. Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things. C. Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver is not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo.
Guys, welcome back. Howard Riell, Real Truth. You know, I was hoping to have Roger Stone on the show last week. It didn't materialize, but I'm reading his book, The Clintons' War on Women. It brings to mind all over again exactly how filthy Bill and Hillary Clinton are. Get a hold of this book and read it. The Clintons' War on Women by Roger Stone. Here's this next video clip. It is Roger Stone talking about the Clintons' war on women. I think he's with Sean Hannity. Here we go.
All the talk about the debate tonight and a lot of focus on it and a lot of focus on the email server scandal of Hillary Clinton. Well, people have been wondering, well, what's going to happen as it relates to Bill Clinton, and if Hillary's going to be the candidate for women, isn't it time for a woman to be president? Well, what about her treatment of women, and what about her silence with all these women that have come forward and accused her husband of everything from groping and grabbing and fondling and Monica Lewinsky and everything in between to actual allegations of rape? I had once interviewed Juanita Broderick, for example. Now, there's a blockbuster new book out. We are debuting it right here today on this program. It's called The Clintons' War on Women. It's written by Roger Stone. The foreword is written by Kathleen Willey, and welcome to the program.
Sean, delighted to be here.
Have you increased your security now for the next couple of weeks?
I have no choice because, as you know, the Clintons have left a trail of bodies behind them. But that was a very interesting clip because, of course, in Jennifer Flowers' book, Bill Clinton, she quotes Bill Clinton as saying that Hillary had actually been with more women than he had. And Bill admitted under oath to having a long-term affair with Jennifer, who, in my view, has a lot of credibility.
And as a matter of fact, she reiterated that point in an interview she did even this weekend. So, Jennifer Flowers, look, I've interviewed Kathleen Willey many times, Paula Jones many times. I got one of only 2 interviews that Juanita Broaddrick gave. One was to Lisa Myers at NBC News. I was the only other person. Dolly Kyle Browning, all of these women. Now, if you ask me, as somebody who's been interviewing people since 1988, if I believe them, my answer is unequivocal. It's yes. I believed all of them. So far they have gotten away with this women issue. So far it has not been a big deal. Your book brings up details, which we'll get to in a second, far greater detail than anybody else. Will this have an impact on this presidential race?
Well, I think women voters, 50% of the women voters today have no memory of the Clintons in the White House. They have a generally soft but favorable opinion of Hillary. Last week, as you know, she put out a video aimed at college girls saying, if you're a college rape victim, you deserve to be believed. Well, what about Eileen Wellstone, Juanita Broaddrick, Carolyn Moffett, Liz Ward Grayson, Becky Brown, Helen Dowdy, Paula Jones, Kathy Ferguson, Christy Zercher, and of course Kathleen Willey? They've all come forward and say they were sexually assaulted by Bill Clinton. And you know what they got? They got harassed. They got denigrated. They got threatened by the heavy-handed private detectives who, it turns out, were hired by none other than Hillary Clinton. So she's a hypocrite on this issue.
You're saying that in every one of these cases, Hillary led the defense of Bill and led the attack against the women that she tells us now ought to be believed.
Exactly. They dismissed them as bimbos, sluts, trailer trash. Who's going to believe these women? They're nobody, she says. The truth is, she's not an advocate for women. She's a psychological abuser of women. Bill abuses them physically, and then Hillary abuses them psychologically in order to silence them, lest they get in the way of that climb to political power.
But it's interesting that anybody that brings this up, they try to diminish. They try to attack. They try to obfuscate. There were things in your book that I had not known about. I knew a lot of the women. I didn't understand. You're saying that Bill Clinton was accused of rape another time against the 19-year-old girl, Eileen Wellstone, which got him thrown out of Oxford. I had not known that. Tell me about it.
First of all, he has no degree from Oxford. That's why we call him the Rhodes Scholar rapist. Now, Oxford has a 99% graduate rate. So he claims that he left Oxford because he got accepted at Yale Law School. That's a canard. He left Oxford because he was tossed out. We tracked Eileen Wellstone down. She's still terrified. She would not give us any on-the-record quotes, but she confirmed her previous quotes, which we had turned up from Capitol Hill Blue. She met Bill Clinton in a pub. He savagely raped her. She reported it to the university officials. The State Department got involved, and he was bounced out of Oxford. He has no degree.
Juanita Broaddrick told the story of being raped, and then him throwing her, basically as he's walking out the door, you better put some ice on that, meaning because he had bit her lip.
Yeah, that seems to be his signature. And if you go online and look this up, many rapists use this technique because it's both a disabling move and it's also a bid to keep your mouth shut. So Liz Ward Grayson, Roger Morris, Pulitzer Prize winner, he found a woman in Arkansas, said the same thing, that Clinton had attacked her, bit her. Broaddrick, there's at least 3 women who tell the same story. By the way, there's no evidence they've ever talked to each other. He savagely almost bites through your upper lip. It's kind of his signature.
That is some sick stuff.
He's a sick guy.
Why has all of this gotten ignored?
Because the mainstream media just doesn't cover it, because the Clintons are their darlings, because they are left of center, so they've gotten a pass on so much. And frankly, because a lot of their critics have focused in the wrong places. Look, the Lewinsky thing to me is distasteful, but it's consensual sex. My problem is non-consensual sex.
You mean Kathleen Willey being thrown up against the wall and grabbed and fondled and touched?
Yeah, she's a woman of enormous bravery and courage because her pets have been killed, her children have been threatened, her tires have been slashed. They've made it very clear that they know where her kids go to school, and still she has the courage to speak out. She is really, I think, one brave lady.
Let's talk a little bit about what the tactics are once a woman speaks out against them. You're saying it's the same thing every time.
Yeah, you always got to discredit them. So you send out James Carville or David Brock or one of these other,
Do
goons.
you think they all know? Do you think they all believe it? Or do you think that they really believe in this right-wing conspiracy?
Well, they've made so much money off of the Clinton gravy train that who knows what they believe. It's all about the money. I mean, David Brock was a friend of mine in the day. I've gone through and went through all of his articles that he wrote for the American Spectator. He didn't write anything wrong. He had it all exactly right. Bill's bodyguards have told the story.
Also state troopers.
State troopers. Well, that's who I was referring to. I mean, so who knows what they really believe? But they trash these women as nobodies. They're trailer trash. They're bimbos. Who will ever believe them? Bill's he's a Rhodes Scholar, which of course he's not. Yeah, and then of course there's the personal threats. Jack Palladino.
This is what
Ivan
Dick Morris
Duda.
referred to as the secret police.
Yeah, basically Hillary goes out and she hires these heavy-handed, mostly Los Angeles-based private detectives who then conduct a terror campaign to silence these women, and they feel very alone.
Do you expect as a result of you coming at them so hard in this...
All right, guys, you're going to find this video on my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio. The Clintons' War on Women. It is a fascinating and a creepy read. And it lays out in clear as crystal detail what vermin Hillary and Clinton and Bill Clinton are and have been for decades and decades. They are the lowest of the low. Get this book, read it, share it, talk about it, go online, find this interview, send it to everybody you know, because nobody in his or her right mind who learns what's in this book would vote for Hillary. Nobody. At least I hope not. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back. Real Truth marches on. All right, guys, I'm done. I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon trying to breathe. I'll be back tomorrow with more Real Truth. Please share this video. Hasta luego.